So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast with Irvin Scott and Melissa Santos.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Grizzly Podcast. This is another episode. I'm your host, Irvin Scott.
And I'm your hostess with the mostest, Melissa Santos. What's up?
She's a retired professional wrestler, best known for her work in WWE, TNA. She's currently signed to Impact Wrestling, where she serves as a producer. She's a 7-time Knockouts champion, a TNA Knockouts Tag Team champion. She was also awarded the 2007 TNA Knockout of the Year award, and she's also the Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer. Man, she's done so much. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, Gail Kim. Let's make some noise.
Thank you so much, Gail, for being here. I was so excited. I know Irvin and I talked about, oh my gosh, we need to get Gail on. And I know I'm a big fan. I mean, I had the pleasure of working with you. But Irvin was like, oh my gosh.
It's my pleasure. And of course, like you said, it's a reunion for us, Melissa. We haven't seen each other talked really. I mean, we see each other through, I saw you on Twitch for a while there. But like
that was fun. COVID, it was fun. It was different.
COVID is like, now we haven't seen everyone in person for so long, unless you work with them. Up and going back to normal. With Impact Wrestling, we're finally getting fans. I don't know if we're the last ones to do it, but for our Slammiversary, July 17th, we opened up, at least a partial crowd. So I'm really excited for the wrestlers. I was with no fans last year at Slammiversary, and we brought back the tag team titles for the women. And so Madison and I had to go out there to present them to the winners. And I just remember feeling like, oh, even me just giving them a title, I felt like this is so weird. I got to get out of here. Right? I felt awkward, and I'm used to, performing and all that stuff, but just felt not right at that time.
Performing not in front of, fans. It's like wrestling is, you need the live audience, that's the biggest, I felt like one of the biggest parts. And then I don't know, I didn't even realize how much until they were not there too.
I know. Well, Brian works in AEW, right? So
now they started having fans. So I want to say it's been a couple of months now. And now it's like just this last, he just had a match with Hangman with Paige. And so he's like, oh, he was so happy. He came home and was like, finally, like, it was just like, there was cheering, there was booing. Like it was just so different. And his performance was different because of it. It's like, instead of like an actor doing a monologue, like now you have a scene, right? Like you're actually feeding off of someone. So it's really nice.
The last pay-per-view they had, I guess, at Daly's place. And I saw the fans, and everyone was just like such positive feedback because all the wrestlers were just having fun. Like, just to experience the fans, I'm glad they weren't nervous. I didn't think they'd be nervous. I thought the adrenaline would just shoot up. It was nice to see that anyways.
I think Brian was a little nervous. He did tell me he was a little nervous. He's like, man, I haven't been nervous in a while. And I really believe that it's because he's like, all right, well, we're back. Like we're, like fully back. They're like the seats were packed. Like there wasn't there was no distancing anymore. So now that, things are happening and people are, handling what they need to do and protocols are changing. I think it's really nice that you can have that energy next to you. Like it's so different. Like watching a baseball game on TV is so different than like being in the stands and feeling the energy and feeling that it's the same thing. Like you need to have that. So I'm really happy for you guys. Your mama Gail, like you're back there making sure that everyone is okay, and I think that's great that you probably made sure the pandemic wasn't as difficult as it could have been.
You're very critical in your role because just like the fans cheer on the talent and they feed off of that energy, the talent is feeding off of your energy as well because you're giving them advice, you're working with them. So, it kind of helps to have that extra person to be there and just kind of guide them. You know what I'm saying? So good for you.
I think it's both ways. They give me energy because when they perform and they kill it, I'm just excited as them. I'm like, oh my God, I literally feel the emotions that I felt performing. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm very invested in the girls, and just giving them that motivation before, or pumping them up and giving them that confidence right before. Like I know you're going to kill it out there. And I try to just get them, pumped and feeling positive and confident.
You're always depositing that confidence, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to see yourself as a performer from the outside in, right? And so you're there, you're those eyes, you're like, okay, Irvin, it's amazing to see her function and the way she maneuvers backstage and gives everyone positive insight on everything.
Critique.
Like, and you're honest too.
I'll give them
critique. It's not just like, oh, that was awesome. Like but you do it in such a like, you have such tact, and it's beautiful to see, and it's really motivating. So even if you're like, oh man, that could have been better, but it's not like you bring people down. And I know that there are some promotions that can completely hammer people down to the point where you can take an amazing talent and then the talent is destroyed, as much potential as they had. So you see potential and you develop it, which is beautiful to see.
Well, I'm definitely very direct to the talent. I'm not going to just say, oh yeah, that was great. I always critique. I try to give feedback. And if I do give a negative, or even if I'm not happy with it, and they know, because I can't hide my feelings, I'm very honest in that way. I always try to give them the positive. So if just say, you know what, not everyone's going to have a great freaking match every week, right? So if they messed up or something, I'll say, okay, that wasn't the greatest, and this and this and this could be better, but this part was good and that part was good. So, let's just move on, learn from that mistake and get better, right?
How did you develop that sense of understanding and ability to coach? Because you were a performer at one point. I think that's always going to be part of you. You're always a performer. But how did you develop that?
Not everybody has that, I guess. But I will say, I think after many years in the business, once you become almost like a locker room leader, or, someone that they respect, more than anything, that's what I feel like I had to gain from my coworkers and my peers, was the respect. And then I found like the girls were coming to me after their matches and asking me what I thought of their match. And, it just kind of developed very naturally in that sense. And I remember Simon Diamond used to be the agent for us, right? The girls, back when I was just talent. And it became to the point of him giving feedback and then me giving feedback. And we were like, we're like a married couple, like arguing and fight. He'd be telling me no, and I'd be fighting for whatever. And then I gained his trust. And then eventually all the girls would come to both of us. And then he'd be like, here, Gail, you can have my job in about a year. Because he kind of saw that I really enjoyed that. And I think sometimes women look at it in a different way. Like I could really relate to the girls and how we have to perform, and the standard that we raise for each other, because the guys, we're like, we got to outdo the guys. We got to be able to keep up with the guys and be just as good as the guys to impress or keep up or get that respect.
You were arguably one of the best wrestlers on this planet. You had some critical matches over in TNA. You and Awesome Kong basically carried that company. But before we get into Impact, you had such a stellar career. I want to go back to the WWE days and your career there. You signed a developmental deal with WWE in 2002. And from what I heard, or from what I read, is that you were encouraged by Molly Holly to send your videos and tapes to WWE officials.
Yeah. Well, she asked me. It's just so happened that we were at a WrestleMania Fan Access, and back then they used to have the Divas magazines. They used to do photo shoots and fly to Mexico and do the stuff. So one of the guys that I was at the wrestling school with, he used to work for WWF and he knew Molly. So I was flipping through the Divas magazine and I saw Molly and I was like, that's my favorite. She's my favorite. And he's like, oh, I'm going to call her right now. So she went in disguise because they had matches, and she met me and she's like, oh, you have a different look. And, why don't you give me your stuff and we'll see what happens. And I got a call 2 months later from the talent relations to get a tryout, and I got signed on that day. I wasn't ready. I'll say that. I wasn't ready, but I guess they saw the potential in me.
And you worked a couple dark matches, some house matches before you were called up to the WWE main roster. You made your television debut in 2003 on WWE Raw. And from there, you won the Women's Championship in your first match. That was a battle royal you had with Trish, Victoria, a couple other people as well. Yeah. What was that like, winning your title in your first televised match?
A blur, overwhelming. Maybe shouldn't have happened. But
why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Because I mean, in hindsight, okay, now that my career is done, because that was like a historical thing. Like I was the first diva to win the women's championship on her debut. Sure, I'll take that now that my career is done. But if I were to do it all over again, I think the proper way would have been for me to start slow. Okay, I'm not ready yet. They should have been able to see that at that point. I was, on the indies, I always was a heel. So I came into WWE live television with 2 years experience, and they threw me on as a babyface. So I didn't, it's scary to be a babyface when you're not comfortable. And I didn't know how to react. I remember, the referee's like, act more excited, celebrate. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So, and when you start at the top, where are you going to go? The only way you got to go is either straight or down. And when you're not experienced, most likely you're going to go down. And that's what happened with me. And hey, to me, that was a learning experience. Now that I look back at it, they did kill my passion after that, but overall, I feel like, the road that was meant to be for myself and my career was supposed to go that way. I was thrown to the wolves, couldn't handle it, learned on my own, and TNA brought back my passion. And,
And look what you did on your path of wrestling. What you did I was telling Irvin, I'm like, you were this wave coming in and just changing what it is. And you changed like the atmosphere.
When you went over to TNA, like I said, you did so much there that those matches you had with Awesome Kong were just so critical, not just for TNA history, but in women's wrestling in general.
Yeah, I just think it took a while. I mean, to be honest, I don't want everyone who's watching this who maybe didn't witness that era to think it just happened like that. It literally was like, I got fired from WWE, quit the wrestling business for a year. TNA called me. I went to go visit. Then they're like, okay, you got to be a manager first because we don't have time for women's wrestling or women's division. But, we will do it. Like, just wait. And I was patient. So that was a year and a half too. So that's 2.5 years after I left WWE. And then it was just me begging and begging and begging. And, finally they gave us a chance, brought in Jackie Moore to wrestle me because I literally tried to quit. I was like, I can't do this anymore without doing what I love, which is wrestle in the ring. And so once I tried to quit, they knew I was serious and that they're like, okay, well, we can bring in Jackie Moore and see what they got, at least give us the opportunity. That's the key word there, opportunity, to be able to show that, maybe girls can be okay and maybe people will want to see it and it's going to be good. And ever since then, they brought in another girl. And then they're like, we're going to bring in a title. We're going to bring in 8 girls. We're going to have a gauntlet. And the rest is history, honestly, because it just was very successful from that point on.
You became the TNA Women Knockouts Champion in 2007 at Bound for Glory. Does that bring back memories again?
So now I feel accomplished because, when something's kind of handed to you, right? Of course, it's like, wow, I feel honored and grateful, but at the same time, you didn't fight for it. You didn't work for it. I was given the opportunity and I hope I proved myself. Obviously, they kept on giving us more chances. And then it kind of just developed from there. And when you're given opportunities and you're given chances and you feel like you're doing well, your confidence grows, right? And TNA was always one of those places that everyone just felt like they could beat themselves, to be honest, and sometimes when you're in bigger corporations and bigger corporate companies, maybe you're not given a choice of how your character is going to be or, what you think they want you to be. And because you're not being used and like, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to change this? Do I need to change that? And sometimes you just need to be allowed to be yourself, right? More than anything.
And what was everyone's reaction like backstage when you first won that TNA Impact Knockouts Championship in 2007? Was everybody excited? Were there some people that were kind of like, not sure where that was going to go?
You're so electrical backstage. I have to tell you guys, because the girls, before they brought in a whole crop load of girls from the indies to be part of this gauntlet, it was just like 5 of us. It was like Tracy Brooks, Christy Hemme, myself, Jackie Moore had come in near the end, SoCal Val. She didn't wrestle though. And so it was it's for the girls that were there before the big crop of girls came in who had worked there for years without a women's division. They were very emotional. They were crying. I was more, my adrenaline was kicked in and I was excited, and because the fans and they were crying. So then when we came back I thought I was going to cry when I won the title, but I didn't. I think I was just so happy. And then when we came backstage, all the other girls were crying. So it was just a great, supportive, happy moment for the women. And you got to remember, there was no other women's wrestling going on at that time on television. So we knew it was special and we were doing something completely different than everyone else. So it was good.
So Awesome Kong comes in and you guys have these exciting matches. And it was basically like one of the most talked about feuds in 2007, going into 2008. I mean, people still talk about it to this day. So just having those matches with Awesome Kong, what was that whole thing like? What was that whole experience like?
I had heard about Awesome Kong. Her name was Amazing Kong at the time, through Loki, because Loki was wrestling with us. And he's like, there's this girl in Japan. She's different. And I never saw her work. I didn't see what she looked like. But at that time, I wanted a women's division so bad. So I went to Dutch Mantel, who is one of the agents for the girls. And I was like, there's this girl in Japan. I just pretty much just reiterated everything he said. I said, I think we need to bring her in. And then shortly thereafter that, they started talking about all the women they were going to bring in. And she was one of them. And so, like I said, I never bothered to even look up her work or anything like that. So before the gauntlet happened, we had one TNA taping where it was TV leading up to Bound for Glory to say that we're going to have this gauntlet. So they had all the girls come out, and it was all the girls coming out, but it was a match with me and Kong. So I had a match with her before the gauntlet. And I just remember our chemistry was just so easy in there. And I remember when they hit her music, you can go back and look at this. I always talk about this story. You can see it on YouTube or whatever. When she came out for her entrance in her gear and the music, I went, holy shit. Because I was scared. I was legitimately scared because I met her backstage, and obviously she was not like her character. And her character work was just phenomenal. I mean, her facials and just so good. I mean, there hasn't been another Kong since. I feel like people have tried to imitate her, but they'll never be.
Can't be duplicated.
No, exactly.
So then following your matches in TNA with Awesome Kong, you decided to re-sign with WWE. You decided to go to WWE in 2008.
I didn't want to go because I knew that they killed my passion before. But I was still in the prime of my career, and I felt like I proved myself with Impact, or TNA, back then. They kind of didn't offer me a great contract. And so I was like, I thought they were playing hardball, right? So I'm like, okay, I felt like we were going to negotiate back and forth, and they never budged. So WWE had seen, I guess, the stuff we did with Kong, were very interested, and they offered me what I wanted from TNA. So at that point, I was like, I owe more money than, I was in a financial situation where that was just a strictly business decision. And I hope for the best. And I thought, okay, I was very inexperienced and green the first time. I'm going to go to WWE, hope for the best. I'm stronger, wiser, everything else more confident. I went back, and, this is what I say about that time. The best thing that happened was I met my husband. So it was the same experience again. And so I decided to leave and go back to the company I was happy with.
But were people sad to see you leave TNA since you decided to go back to WWE? What was their reaction like then?
I think the fans were actually excited because, at that time, yes, TNA was doing well on Spike TV, but WWE fans are there's a lot of them, right? So they're more like, oh, I'm so excited to see Gail go back to WWE. Because now she's shown what she can do, they're going to utilize that, right? So I think they were more hopeful, just like I was.
I think they could have done a lot with you, especially because, you're such a kick-ass wrestler. Like you said earlier, things happened the way they did. Let's get into you leaving WWE. Yeah. The last time you were there, you participated in a battle royal. That was on August 1st in 2011. And this was to determine the number one contender for the Divas Championship. But after the match began, like within the first minute, we saw you eliminate yourself from the match. What happened? I mean, was that scripted? Was that a shoot?
Well,
I mean, I'm wondering, you know.
I know a lot of people, well, the WWE hardcore fans hate it, right? Because they're like, oh, you're so unprofessional. I would never, ever screw over the other girls. Like, that's my first priority. For me, it was just like, we were treated so badly for so long at this point, and I knew I wanted to leave. And I was just like, okay. And they, same thing, time cut. And it's like, okay, you girls, the first 4 need to get eliminated within the first minute now, not the 3rd minute or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm over this. So just told Alicia Fox, I was like, I'm going to hit you and you just sell and I'll take care of myself, you know? And I was just being fed up at this point. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I'm out. So
yeah, and with conviction, right at that point, you're like, no, I've done what I've needed to do here. You knew your talent, you knew what you could bring to the table, you knew what you're bringing to the table. You're just like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was just, you know, I've always had that personality too. I give props to everyone there that's frustrated, and they say I was always not the type to just, I couldn't wait longer than 3 years to wait for my opportunity. I was just kind of like, and I talked to each person and I said, what am I supposed to do here? I'm doing everything you ask me to do, you know, pitch ideas. I'm a good company girl as best as I can be. You know, I do everything I think I'm supposed to do. What do I do? Change my hair color? Like, I was asking myself all these questions. Do I change the way I look? You know, and I was just pretty much, okay, you know what?
Like a toxic like relationship with someone. It's like, what do I do for you to love me?
Yeah, that's basically what it was.
And they're just teasing you.
And if I had answers,
yeah,
their answers back, then I could have acted on it, but I never got answers. And so I was like, okay, you know what? My contract's coming up. It's time to leave and I can do what I love best. And then after that, I mean, if I didn't leave, and I accepted, they offered me a training job. I was like, no, I still have years to go in the ring. And then I wouldn't have done all the stuff I did with Taryn after that too. You know, I just knew I wasn't finished.
I want to say, I thought it was so gangster, the way she just kind of like bailed out. No fucks given. She's just like, I'm out. Peace.
Yeah, I pretty much was done. That's it. They don't share. They never showed that they cared about us, you know, about not everybody, but, you know, I just felt like, okay, well, I don't want to be feeling this way anymore.
They did put you over recently. Best wrestlers of all time. I saw something on Twitter. I don't know. I don't go on Twitter too often. WWE had posted something.
Oh, well, I was actually surprised that they even acknowledged my existence. But I'm okay with that. I have no hard feelings about that because I'm pretty vocal.
Whenever I go on Twitter, 90% of the time, it's almost like you're telling people to go fuck themselves. And I'm sorry, I'm going to add the only way I know how to say this. You know?
I am a human being. Just so you know, I do block a lot, but you know, Melissa, you're kind of a feisty one too.
I am, but that's why I have to get off of. But I get like, sometimes I'll like actually get mad, and I'm like, no, I'm getting off of this.
I get mad sometimes. I'm a human being. I get mad, and so I'm like, I just think of like, okay, how can I say this now back to this person without being like attacking like them? You know, I just feel like. This is what I always say, and I've said it many times in interviews, and I say it on Twitter all the time. I've met many trolls on Twitter. I've never met any in person. So, you know, you just got to think of it this way. They're mainly all cowards, right? Listen, if there's any people out there too, I don't mind if people disagree with me. Say your point of view. That's okay. You don't have to attack and be mean. And that's the thing about Twitter. I think it has gotten a lot worse with people when they disagree. They attack each other, and they shouldn't do that.
Speaking of Twitter, though, you went on your Twitter account and you had mentioned that you had quit WWE following that specific incident.
You're bringing up everything now.
But I had read also that WWE didn't really grant you the release and that you were forced to stay with the company.
That's right. They just let the contract sit, right?
Yeah, it was just 7 weeks. It wasn't very long, but I told them I just honestly didn't want to do anything to do with them anymore. And so I said, just let me out of the contract. If there's any money to be paid to me, I'm good with not having it. I just want to be free and be able to have my freedom and walk away. And my main thing was like, okay, the reason why you're probably not going to or they wanted me to sit at home for the remaining 7 weeks. And for me, it's just like, that's more to prevent me from going. If I was going to go back to TNA, they most likely knew. So my only way of thinking there was, well, if you never treated me like I had any worth, why would you care if I went to another company and jump ship tomorrow? Because I'm of no worth to you. So what's the difference? So we got into a little bit of, a debate about that, but I had to sit at home and it drove me crazy. I'm not going to lie. Having 2 weeks off wrestling was kind of like cool, but 7 weeks to me, that's almost 2 months off. And everyone's like, just relax. And you're going back home. So just enjoy your break. But I like to work and keep busy. And so,
always on her Grizzly. So this is why we have you here today.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're always grinding. You're like, no, I have to do something. You're always looking like, how do I improve myself, improve others? And like I said, I had the ability to watch you just be that person. Like you're always just trying to make sure that you're leaving a mark and it's genuine.
Well, that's funny I didn't notice that that's what people notice. So for me,
noticed that everyone,
okay. I do think
everyone does, but that's because you're just because it's organic. It's just happening. That's just who you are.
I think, you live one life on this earth, and don't you want people to remember you and something you've done or accomplished? And that's what I want to feel. Even when I was wrestling throughout my whole career, people are like, well, what would you like to take away from this wrestling career? What would you like fans to remember? And I said, I would love the fans to remember my wrestling, because that's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I love to do is the matches, and have the memorable matches. And that's what I try to pass on to the girls of this generation, because social media, a lot of people work for GIFs and moves and little, highlights. And I'm like,
viral videos.
yeah. And I'm like, well, who's going to remember that in 10 years? They're going to remember a move. They're going to remember the feeling. They're going to remember the storyline. They're going to remember all those emotions. And, the fact that you're talking about Awesome Kong to this day, that's gives me pride. And I want the girls to have those matches that people say, oh my God, remember whatever, Jordan Grace versus Deonna Purrazzo from 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That match, I love that match. And it stands this test of time, right? Mm-hmm. That's ultimately what I think everyone should be striving for.
We're talking about memorable moments, memorable matches. You left WWE. You came back to TNA in late 2011. You won some more titles there during your second run. And Gail, this is amazing because no one else has done this. You hold the record for the most title reigns in TNA history. Again, a 7-time knockouts champion. Man, that's just incredible to me. The fact that, you were able to just accomplish so much with that company, and no one else has been able to come close. I mean, there's been a couple, but no one has ever done what you've done. TNA, you're doing your thing there. Eventually that leads to you announcing your retirement from professional wrestling. This was back in 2017. You have your last match with Tess, Rebellion pay-per-view. What made you want to contemplate on retirement? What led to that decision, basically?
Me deciding to retire. Christy Hemme used to work backstage, and she's like my best friend, right? But she was office, and she was kind of like in charge of the knockouts and kind of a little bit creatively and other things. And she, as a friend, said, she knew my back was hurting and I was starting to limp after matches and stuff. And she's like, hey, if you want to retire, if you're thinking about retiring soon, we should plan it. And I was like, I'm not ready for that conversation. That scares the crap out of me, right? Mm-hmm. And it probably took a couple of years after that conversation where I literally could not walk, where I said, okay, it was the combination of how my body felt and the combination of what's my next goal. And I couldn't answer that question of what my next goal was within the ring and within the company. Mm-hmm. My next goal was to produce, to be honest. I was like, I loved working with the next generation of girls. And I was like, okay, it's obviously sitting right in front of my face, and I'm going to ask Jeff Jarrett for that job. And he said yes. And so I kind of did double duty near the end, agenting and talent, and made the transition over gradually. And everything, and it gives me fulfillment now. But, if I had a healthy back, I probably would want to wrestle still, but my body is a constant reminder. I can't do it again. Right? Not unless I want to walk. Yeah.
But you had that match with Tessa. Did you feel like she was a safe person to have your final match with?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw her talent in the ring, I never really watched her until she came into our company. I'd heard things about her, but I never watched. Then I saw her and, it's like, she's really talented. She's got it, And then eventually after a couple of months, I said, I didn't have the retirement I wanted. So I said, okay, I'm going to come out of retirement. Scott, if you want me to wrestle Tessa, I'll do it. And I said, just give me 2 months heads up because I have to train. She's 20 something years old. I'm 42 years old. And I want to be able to keep up with her and show that I can keep up with her. So they did everything right. I said 2 months of storylines, at least minimum in one match. And they did it. And I couldn't have asked for anything more, to be honest.
It was an amazing match.
Yeah.
I was so happy that I actually got to be there.
I know. I'm so happy you were too.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And Gail, I know you mentioned ages and stuff right now. I wouldn't know your age by the way you were in that match with Tessa, which to me, and it's not just Tessa's my friend or whatever. It doesn't, I do care for Tessa a lot.
Yeah.
I think she's one of the top wrestlers, period. Like right now and maybe
phenomenal.
ever. I think she is just so. I remember seeing her for the first time at Lucha Underground, and I went,
wow, yeah.
Wow. And I'm like, and you could still see that she was like newer and greener, but I was like, who is that, right?
Yeah.
And this is someone that I was green in the industry. So I mean, what I was seeing, a lot of things that I was seeing were like matches for the first time in front of me. Like I had never seen that. Like I'd never watched wrestling live like that, and so I was just so blown away by her. Like just. Yeah. Energy, just her fire, just everything she did, her facials, like just everything. So to see you two in the ring together, my brain was like exploding. And just to see you just be that.
I was blown up. I'm not gonna lie, I was blown up. I trained my ass off for that match, but I was
tell, just so you know, you couldn't see that you were blowing up. Like you were just you were that Gail that everybody watched. And it was just a phenomenal way for you to retire. And I love that you were able to say, this is the way I want to do it. That is a testament to your entire career because you've always said, no, this is how I want to do this. You guys, it was such a great match. So,
I mean, it's a proper thing to do, definitely, at the end of your career. And for me, I was just more, I've never had nerves like that because, we have normal nerves when we're used to performing, but to be out of the performing mind for 15 months. I mean, I had a couple of in-ring segments before that, but I never experienced nerves like that ever. I was like, oh my God, I never want to go through this ever again. I said, so I know I'm done for sure, 100%. And the pressure I used to put on myself when I was in the prime of my career, it was another level of pressure putting on myself for that too. That's all I thought about for 2 months straight, like all day, every day. And that was just because I wanted it to be magic. I just prayed for it to be good. And I'm really happy with it. I was really happy with it.
That was it. That was your last match. What's going through your mind at this point? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling excited? I mean, it's a mix of emotions, I'm sure, right?
I felt relieved. I felt relieved that I was satisfied with it. And I felt relieved that it was over. And I actually, when I came out of that match, to be honest, because I didn't know what it felt like, because I'd been so long, I didn't know whether the match was good. Even if people told me, Tommy gave me great feedback after the match. He said that was one of the best matches of your career. And I was like, it was? Like, I really didn't feel that way after, because sometimes you got to watch the match back. In my career, normally I hated watching my matches back. So what I would do is, because I knew I had to watch them in order to learn, I'd always watch it with no audio right first. And then if I liked it with no audio, then I turn on the audio and then watch it again. So that match, I watched it with no audio after 1 week after it happened. So I waited. There were certain points of the match that I could have had more fire and interacted with the fans, but I couldn't. I couldn't.
Your cardio was, that's different.
I mean, I trained my butt off. I'm telling you, I really did, but it's never the same as getting in that ring and having that match. It's just not. Yeah. And I knew that. That's why I even told Impact, I was like, okay, guys, don't don't expect like a half an hour segment out of me, right? But Scott was great. You know, normally on a live pay-per-view, if there's time segments or whatever, we had no restrictions. They're just like, go do your thing, you know, so we didn't have pressure on us.
That's nice.
Well, looking back on your career, you've done so much. You were an Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer. Just that moment alone, I'm sure just kind of encompasses everything that you've done. Wrestling was life for you, and you've done so much. But now we're moving towards outside of wrestling. Your husband, celebrity chef Robert Irvine.
Yeah.
You guys met on the set of his show, right? Is that correct?
I was only on the show from like afternoon on, and then that was SummerSlam, and the girls had a pre-show battle royal. And so I remember I was filming all day, and they literally pulled me away. I went to the Staples Center, put on my gear, and I was like, okay, what's happening? I really didn't even care about what was happening in the match, got eliminated. And then I was like, I remember just watching from ringside, watching the girls wrestle. But I was just more on cloud nine from meeting him, really, because we just kind of hit it off. So Miz was on the show from the morning. So he filmed the full morning and the full day. And then, so when I came on halfway through, you know, I think Melissa can identify with this. A lot of female wrestlers or female wrestling personalities, we're very independent and strong, and like that's the way we look at ourselves, and other people perceive us, and we think we want to wear the pants in the relationship. And at least I always thought I wanted to be in charge in every relationship. And so and then I remember seeing him in the kitchen, and he was so in charge, and I was like, whoa, that's a real man. Like, I like this, right? I like this. And of course, I mean, I just love cooking and all that stuff. And I don't know, something about him. And then at the same time, I was saying to Miz, wow, I like how he's so in charge. And then he was saying to Miz, oh my God, she's so beautiful, right? So we're both telling Miz about each other. And then after that, we just kind of emailed and got to know each other after that, you know, like, after he said, oh, thanks for being on the show, and just got to know each other for like 2 months.
Pretty awesome. And you guys got married on May 11 in 2012.
Yes. So next year, 10-year wedding anniversary. Time flies, but we're having fun. Yeah.
Right on. Congratulations.
That's awesome. And I think that is true. So like strong women, I feel like we need someone to like be not stronger, maybe stronger, but there has to be something where it makes you go, oh, okay.
You feel safe. You feel
I can just be like gentle and chill and like, okay, like I don't have to be that energy all the time. I think that's the attractive part. I think a lot of, there has to be like that energy that comes in where you're like, don't have to be always like flexing on people all the time. Like, I don't want to flex on you. I just want to chill.
Gail, is it somewhat sexy to having a guy that can cook for you? I mean, he's a chef. You can just go in there and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, definitely. 100%. Not that he really cooks for me all that much. He never really cooks. I do all the cooking now, but it is, though, just to see, I know this sounds so weird, but just when he chops vegetables, I'm like, wow.
You're like, take your clothes off.
It's like something out of like a romance novel, right?
And you know what is so great about him? It's because he's such a strong man, and he inspires me to this day, motivates me to this day. But yet he supports my independence and strength. And he loves that I have my own thing going, that, you know, he's just so supportive. Just the perfect partner for me.
You are blessed, definitely blessed. Yeah. I'm happy to hear about, you know, an exciting marriage like that, because, you know, you hear about so many people that just kind of go through ups and downs, and, you know, no relationship is perfect, but the fact that you guys are still doing it here after, you know, almost 10 years now.
Are you guys going to renew your vows?
I don't believe in renewing vows unless some vows were broken. So that's just
interesting.
But I don't believe in renewing vows unless you break them.
Oh, that's an interesting way. Yeah, okay.
But I believe in big parties.
That's why I'm like, after getting married, I'm like, can I do this again? This was nice.
Yeah, I mean,
so nice.
I loved my wedding day and had the most fun I ever had in my life. But if I were going to change, I would have changed like my dress, and I would have done things differently in that regard, but nothing else. Just, it was the most perfect day.
But the wedding is the most important thing in any woman's life. So what was your wedding like? Where did you guys have it? What was that whole thing like?
In Napa, well, not right in Napa, but basically Napa in St. Helena, on a vineyard. And it was, I didn't want to plan it because, listen, I was getting married in my mid-30s, and which I'm so happy I did, because I got the selfish part of my life over with. And then, because I don't think we would have worked before that. When I was selfish in my 20s in WWE, it would have been honestly probably very challenging. So I'm glad we got married then. And so I just did more of the major things, like we picked the location together. I got the DJ because he has no taste in music. He did all the pain in the ass, minute, stressful things. He took care of that. So I was the most relaxed bride ever.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, what was your wedding song?
Oh, okay. So we had, I don't know if you guys will know this song, but so when I walked down the aisle, we did Train, Will You Marry Me?
Yeah.
But we had this set of twins that we knew from Nashville, who Robert's daughters grew up with, and they're like, in Nashville country singers and gorgeous voices. So they sang that song as like, they sent it to me on YouTube, and I was like, oh God, it's just so beautiful. And then the other one for us, dancing to our song. I don't know if you guys would know the song, but it's by Taylor Swift. And I don't remember who the other singers are on it, but 2 is better than 1. And so we danced to that. But my husband hates dancing. So he's like, okay, is it over yet? I'm like, you're ruining the moment.
Did he ask you that? You're like, this is the longest.
It was like probably 3/4 of the way through the song, and he's like, is it over yet? And I'm like, okay, we need to put the fast music back on and just put the party, get the party going.
Not all guys, because I don't want to speak for everybody, but most guys that I know, aren't really good dancers, including myself.
Irvin can't dance. That's what we were talking
Can't
about.
dance to save my life, man.
I can't dance either, so it's okay.
I can't dance, but I can dance when I drink. Not that it's good, but I think it's good.
Okay. I know. I need to find a way to get Brian like a little tipsy. He doesn't drink, so like.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes I want him to take a shot. Like, chill out here.
Yeah, that's so cool. But Gail, it looks like you're living a very happily married life, so we're happy to hear that. Now, wrestling aside, wedding aside, let's talk about current projects you've got going on at the moment. I know last year during the pandemic, there was some sort of mention. It was yourself, Lita, Christy Hemme. You guys had announced Kayfabe. It was that wrestling show that was inspired by true events, which blends scripted drama with pro wrestling.
Inspired by, women's wrestling through the lens of us, because wrestling has always been told through a man's eyes. Even like Glow, for example, is a all women's show or all women's brand, and it was through a man's eyes, and so we wanted to give a little bit of a blend of reality with seeing it through our lens and our perspective. And then so COVID hit in the middle of our little PR tour and everything like that, so kind of killed it. Everything shut down. We literally went for our last meeting, and then we were going to do an appearance in LA, and we had to cancel that last minute. And so people have been asking about it, and we're like, yes, don't worry, we haven't given up, and it's still,
people want to know.
And of course, like, I've seen many people talk about it, and I've heard even WWE, there's people fighting for it, but not necessarily. It's not necessarily going to happen, but I think we're going to start. I can't really talk about stuff, but I've still got working on little things here and there in the wrestling world, and hopefully in a few months' time, we can hear some new positive surprises and news.
Fans want to know what is going on with this project.
Well, like you said, Melissa, I'm always trying to think, what can I do? What can we do next? And I don't like to sit, idly doing nothing or just cruising along with what I'm just doing. And I love being with the girls, but I do want to contribute more. I do want to do more and leave that legacy behind, of how I want people to remember me.
Yeah, Gail, you're a hustler. She definitely stays on her Grizzly, man. You're
I'm trying.
somebody that represents what we do on this show. This is the Grizzly Podcast. I had mentioned to you before we actually got the show started, we were talking about how the show focuses on people that are constantly on their grind, and you're somebody that embodies that. You've done so much in your career. You're still continuing to do things even outside of wrestling, even if it's related to wrestling, whatever it is that you're doing, you're always just grinding. So we appreciate you for doing that.
It's my husband is a great motivational person for me and inspiration. And I've never met anyone or dated anyone who inspired me as much as him. That guy is a workaholic and doesn't stop. And even when I feel like I'm nonstop working. I feel lazy next to him. I'm like, I got to keep up with him. I need to keep myself as busy as him. And I can't accomplish as much as he has at this point, but he is just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the confidence at the level at what he does it at, I'm like, okay, that's how I want to be. It really is. He's my motivation, my inspiration.
What advice can you give our listeners? Because the people listening are, they want to be motivated. They want to come on here. They want to hear, obviously you're big fans of you like we are. What advice can you give them about never giving up? That cliche thing, which we all know is true, but in your own words, how do you express that message to them?
I would say, that's a pretty straightforward message. And I feel like these days you are your own worst enemy and getting in your own head and maybe feeling discouraged, and surround yourself with people that are better than you, that motivate you. Surround yourself. Don't think of people as competition. Ask for help. Be open-minded and learn and grow. And, that's the only way you're going to get better. I feel like this generation, maybe it's because of technology, social media, everyone wants instant gratification and things take time. Hard work and time is the realistic way to get success. And I think people forget that because they just want it now and it's going to happen so fast, or, I already know, and this is the way it is. And, a lot of the times, especially in wrestling, you hear people from, say, my generation or before my generation giving advice to the younger talent. And they're like, oh, they're just so out of date and out of touch. And, no, guess what? It all goes back, for example, with wrestling. People want it so fast. Things take time. Storytelling is what gets over. That takes time, investment, to be emotionally attached. That's what gets you over. And, okay, maybe you'll think we're out of touch, but that's a winning formula that will never, ever change.
I think it's great that people listening right now know that it's okay to, live that journey and enjoy the journey, like that in between.
Be nice to everybody.
That's the yummy part, right?
Yeah.
That's a part you would look back and made, like what you mentioned earlier. You're like, when I finally got to where I wanted to be, I earned that spot. And it came with a different type of emotion. Like you're like, I was so, and even as you were explaining it, like I almost felt like you were going to cry. Like you gave me chills. I didn't tell you, but I was like, oh, like you see that it was just different than when you felt like it was just handed to you. And that in between is like what matters, right?
It really does. And be kind to everybody, because it doesn't seem like people are kind to everyone these days. And I always tell people, and we hear this all the time, you'll see the same people on your way up you're going to see them on your way down. And so it's great to have good relationships with people. And maybe you won't always get along or, click with someone and their personality, but you can respect each other and try to be professional and just do the best job that you can and just be respectful.
We thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the Grizzly Podcast and just, talking wrestling with us, as well as your life, your marriage, and just offering advice to anybody that's listening or watching this right now. A lot of people, they get a kick out of just getting advice from other people, because that's the thing. Sometimes we just need motivation. For anybody that's interested in following more of your career, where can they find you?
Twitter and Instagram, Gail Kim, it's me, both the same handle. I do not have a Facebook. I do not have anything else besides no TikTok or anything like that, but I'm pretty active on both. So you can check me out there. So July 17th, we have Slammiversary going on, and you never know who's going to pop up at that pay-per-view. So tune in.
Make sure you guys tune in. That's Impact Wrestling Slammiversary.
Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for your time. You have a great one.
Some rest.
Okay.
And we'll be in touch. Take care.
Yeah, for sure. Bye.
See ya.
Yo, turn it up. Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.